Welcome everyone. Welcome back to lunch, to our first plenary lunch today. I'll give you a moment to settle down here. Thank you. My name is Amber Cox, and as many of you know, I'm the executive director with CCAS. I am the one responsible for all of the messages and emails that you have received, so I do apologize for the volume on that. We try to communicate often and in different ways so that you understand what's going on with the program. So I did want to call your attention before we get started with our session to the Meetups tab in the app. That's in the community section on the app on your main home screen. I see that some of you have coordinated some dinner outings. There's a visit to a brewery Friday evening that a number of you are going to. So please feel free to use that section of the app to coordinate any other kinds of gatherings for meals or tours or ventures out that you'd like to do. Thank you. As we noted this morning, these events sometimes have some surprises or changes, and we adapt to that. And we are very pleased that our speaker today, while unable to join us in person, is going to join us virtually. So I guess we've all had a little practice with that and what that looks like this morning. So I'm going to introduce to you our speaker, and then I will exit the stage, and we will have our speaker on stage here. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome back to CCAS Carolyn Stefanko, who served as dean at a campus in the California State University and was a frequent speaker at these annual meetings, an instructor for our CCS New Dean seminars, and a member of the CCS Board of Directors. Since that time, she completed successful tenures as Vice President for Academic Affairs and President, and became known internationally as a higher education and women's leadership scholar. And she has founded a consulting firm. Named for Jeanne Beret, the first woman to circumvent the globe in the 18th century, Beret Leadership Consulting helps individuals, organizations, and institutions to cross boundaries and to defy odds by providing professional services in executive coaching, board development, and global engagement. In her work in the latter area, she has some exciting news to share with us today about a new partnership between CCAS and a professional association that she represents. She will also speak a bit about her journey of developing global perspective and why it matters for deans. So with that, please help me welcome Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amber, for that really kind introduction. And I am so grateful to be with all of you. I am so sorry I couldn't be with you in person, however. What Amber didn't say was that I got sick a couple of days ago, so I'm definitely on the mend, but I wasn't well enough to get on the plane. So I wanted to start out by saying that I am really, really happy to be with you because I absolutely loved being a dean, and I loved being a member and being involved with CCAS. And so it's really very special to me that in my new work in global engagement, this has provided an opportunity for me to re-engage with CCAS in a different way. And so today, as Amber hinted, I am very pleased to announce that CCAS has recently signed an agreement with an entity that's called Higher Education Leadership and Management. And I will explain to you what that is. But it goes by the acronym of HELM, Higher Education Leadership and Management. So HELM is a unit within Universities South Africa. And Universities South Africa is the professional association of the 26 public universities in that country. Universities South Africa is similar in its purpose to the American Council on Education, ACE, but its institutional members do not include the private colleges and universities in South Africa. Through my work in South Africa, recruiting students for the institution where I served as president, and I'll talk about that a little later, and also expanding the reach of a professional association where I currently serve on the board, and that's the International Leadership Association, I first met a man named Oliver Seal. Oliver has a PhD in leadership development. He's the author of a new book called Deanship in the Global South. and he is the director of Helm. Oliver had also hoped to be in Portland with me and all of you today, but because of COVID, he was not able to travel. And so he recorded a 3-minute message for you, which I would like to share right now. And then when we're done listening to Oliver's message, I'll be back with you. So here's Oliver.
Good day, everyone. My name is Oliver Seal, and I send warm greetings from Pretoria in South Africa. I'm the Director of Higher Education Leadership and Management, and as you will hear later today from our colleague, Carolyn Stefanko, that we have just entered into a really exciting partnership with CCAS. So it's good to be here, albeit virtually. I'm really sorry I could not join you in person, but will certainly do so next time. My warmest greetings to CEO of CCAS, Amber Cox, and the board, and also to all of you attending this really exciting conference of CCAS in Portland, Oregon during this time. I'm really happy that we have initiated this collaboration with CCAS, especially in the area of deanship. We take deanship very seriously at Helm, the program I represent and head up at Universities South Africa, which is a national association of 26 public universities. And in Helm, we have started various initiatives to support the work of deans, given the important bridging role, the intersecting role, the connecting role that they play within the university, between the academy and the administration. So I'm really looking forward to strengthening our collaboration and our partnership with CCAS. I'm really excited about the possibilities that are going to emerge, especially our global connections in this very important role of gaining, but leadership, academic leadership more generally, and the opportunities that we will use through these initiatives to strengthen and to build our partnerships between our respective organizations. So I wish you and I hope you have a very successful conference. Carolyn will certainly represent us very ably as Helm, as our international coordinator. And Carolyn and I and Amber will work collaboratively towards identifying exciting opportunities for global exchanges, for knowledge sharing, for interventions that are specifically designed and implemented to support the work of deanship. So enjoy the conference. Carolyn will certainly talk some more about what we are doing and we are planning to do in Helm currently, and more specifically around our partnership with CCAS. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and I look forward to seeing you in person next time. Be safe, take care, and warmest regards from Pretoria in South Africa. Goodbye.
Great. Now I can see the room, which is fabulous, because I didn't get a glimpse of you, Amber, but anyway, I'm glad to see everybody in the room. I hope you're enjoying the dessert course. So the agreement between CCAS and Helm offers opportunities to create global exchanges and to share knowledge, as Oliver stated, and also to provide professional development for deans, to exchange open education resource, learning materials, documents, and research publications in leadership and management, to conduct joint fundraising and advancement, and to explore other mutually beneficial activities, such as a global study of deans, which I think Amber agrees with me is long overdue. In addition to working closely with Amber and Oliver, I'm hoping I'll have some opportunities to talk to the board And I would also like to hear your ideas, the deans in the room at the luncheon, for how this new partnership might serve you and your universities. Before I open the floor for your thoughts and your questions, though, I want to speak for a little while about global perspectives on deaning. First, let me acknowledge that some of you already have a wide array of global experiences. I realize that you may have been an international student who came to the United States for your undergraduate or your graduate degree. You may have served as a faculty member in another country outside the US. You may have created partnerships as an administrator with universities in other parts of the world to support student mobility. And you may conduct research as part of an international team. Some of you, though, I'm guessing, are more like me. As a first-generation college student, I did not have the resources to, quote unquote, study abroad. That's what we called it. With the exception of teaching in a London study program as a young faculty member, during the early years of my career, I was largely focused on meeting the requirements for tenure and promotion and raising my daughter. And I didn't spend much time pursuing global connections. Later, as a department chair, I was endlessly busy with teaching schedules on the quarter system, with the whole peer review process, and with other tasks. Thinking more broadly for me in those years meant working on a university-wide requirement for cultural pluralism and trying to join with faculty from across the university to launch a center for women's science and technology. All of that changed, though, when I became a dean, in part because I had been notified the year before that I had been successful in applying to become a senior Fulbright scholar. Now, you might ask yourself, how did all of that come together? And I have to be honest with you, I had started to apply for deanships and I didn't think I would get one. And I had also applied to become a senior Fulbright scholar, and I was convinced that that wouldn't happen either. And I was very fortunate that both things happened. So I went to my new provost, who had offered me this position to become the founding dean of a new college. And I asked him, would you let me accept this Fulbright? To this day, I have no idea why he said yes. But he said that as long as I agreed to move and to spend the first 3 months, starting July 1st, when many of us begin, leading my new college, I could then leave California and travel to the University of Zagreb in Croatia, where I would be joining the American Studies program to teach an undergraduate and a doctoral course and to do some research. So I never found the time to finish the article that I called Deaning from a Distance. But I still remember teaching my courses during the day in Zagreb and meeting by phone, of course, long before Zoom, late into the night Zagreb time with my colleagues who were in California. So while I suppose I proved that it was possible to play a marginal role in managing a new college without being physically present, much more significant is that I learned how to live in another culture, and it was a hard life. I also had most of my assumptions about higher education challenged, and I began to develop a global perspective, which would inform the rest of my time as dean and also shape my actions and my viewpoint as a vice president and later a president. Since then, I've had the great fortune to be able to work in more than 18 countries. And I know that engaging globally will inspire you, will allow you to leave a lasting legacy at the colleges you lead, and will support your professional advancement. While serving as a Fulbright scholar in Croatia, for example, I quickly learned that American expectations for university support were not the norm. when I was warmly welcomed to a very small office with one computer that I learned I would be sharing with 2 senior and 1 junior faculty members and a graduate student. As I got to know my colleagues, I also learned that they all had second jobs to be able to pay their bills because the university didn't pay enough to be able to do that. Although I was already aware that university students could not afford to buy books for their courses, which led to, as I saw it, massive violations of copyright law as faculty created illegal readers, I did not fully understand that students in Croatia bore responsibility for many other expenses in gaining their university degrees. I can still recall the expression on the face of the young man who I had encouraged repeatedly to order a book that he needed for his research paper through interlibrary loan. He came to my office with a look of great pride to show me that he had obtained the slim volume. What I later learned is that he had used his entire month's food budget to pay to borrow the book, since the university did not provide free interlibrary loan services. Most of us know that we are privileged, but I came to understand this in a deeper way because of my time in Croatia. As the student body we serve in the US has continued to change, I also believe that I became more compassionate about the difficulties students encounter when trying to complete their educations as the result of my Fulbright. My colleagues in California and in other places where I worked benefited in unanticipated ways from my experiences in other parts of the world as well. I made sure that I met professors and administrators from other faculties while I was in Croatia. And as my global network expanded across Europe and then to Africa, Asia, and Australia, my commitment to thinking big continued to grow, as did my confidence. And I led efforts to create partnerships with universities in many parts of the world. These provided support for new study away programs, invitations to faculty for Fulbright experiences, and funding for international research teams, some of which included undergraduate students. Not surprisingly, the strategic plan we created at the institution where I served as president had global engagement as its first goal. This revolutionized our ideas about alumni relations and fundraising, as one example. My institution had been recruiting student athletes from around the world for about 50 years, and many of them had gone on to successful careers in their countries of origin. No one had ever contacted them, though. And when I met the first former soccer player alum in Madrid 20 years after he graduated, he asked, "What took you so long to get in touch with me?" He became one of our biggest supporters in international programs. Now, since many of you are fundraising as deans, I'm interested in learning about Central Advancement's interest in and support of your international efforts in this regard, and also about the kind of experiences that you've had learning about philanthropic traditions in different parts of the world, because I know that's often held up as a barrier to international fundraising. I also wonder what you're thinking about the themes and the goals of your strategic plans in terms of forging connections in other countries. In addition to prioritizing global engagement, the institution where I served as president offered robust student leadership programming. And as a result, I sought and created a partnership with the African Leadership Academy, a residential school that draws the most talented students from each country on the continent for their junior and senior years of high school, where they learn about leadership and make a commitment following their college educations in either Europe or the United States to return to Africa and to lead change. Within 4 months of my visit, my institution welcomed a cohort of first-year students from this academy, and we began to think about how to be more global in our orientation as we conceptualized leadership. In addition to traveling to other countries to meet with alums and to recruit students, I also continued to participate in global conferences and professional development programs. One noteworthy experience took a group of higher education leaders from around the world to Australia, where we met with vice chancellors and deputy vice chancellors and toured their universities. The biggest takeaway for me was learning how Australian public universities increased funding for research by expanding international student enrollment, and how community partners were key to their success. I applied what I learned in Australia in the Regional Economic Development Group on which I served in the US, and sought alliances based on a new understanding of the larger economic impact of international students and their benefit to a burgeoning tourism industry. Programs like the one in Australia continue to take place there and in other parts of the world, and they are open to deans. And I would be happy to introduce you to my colleague in the UK who leads them if you get in touch with me. In addition to inspiring new ways to approach our work, having a global perspective also provides a different lens through which to view all sorts of issues that confront us in American higher education. When the New York State Legislature adopted the Excelsior Scholarship, free public tuition, as part of the fiscal year 2018 state budget, for example, I thought about the very different origins of free tuition in Croatia 10 years earlier. While the Excelsior program was created by a state government to appeal to middle-class families and individuals making up to $125,000 per year, giving them the opportunity to attend all CUNY and SUNY 2-year and 4-year colleges for free, it was student activism that led to the adoption of free tuition in Croatia. There, the national government had announced that it would raise tuition, and students at the University of Zagreb, who could definitely not afford to pay more, launched protests that shut down instruction for 34 days, spread their message to other universities in the country, and ultimately led the national government to not only rescind the planned increase, but to provide university education for free. In US higher education, we have seen increased student activism around racial injustice following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and others. When you think about your institution's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and your own leadership on this issue, what might we learn from the deans in South Africa, where Oliver wrote, universities have been marred by the impact of colonization and exclusionary racist legacies during the short number of years post-apartheid, when the entire higher education system was reorganized. While Oliver's study of deans does not examine gender issues per se, Helm does offer a fabulous new Women in Leadership program for deans and other middle-level administrators. My work with the participants in the last cohort revealed how these women experience the intersectionality of race and gender and the tremendous costs of academic leadership for some women in South Africa. In addition to the discrimination they encounter when seeking advancement, they reported very difficult working conditions after assuming leadership positions. Women participants in the program shared stories about having male professors seek transfers to other faculties when they learned that they would be reporting to a Black woman dean. And they also told stories of being publicly humiliated by male supervisors at meetings. All of this, by the way, was, these stories were shared in a conversation about how they demonstrate strength and commitment to their work. Now, of course, all the issues deans and other administrators face around the world have been exacerbated by the impact of the pandemic on higher education. And a global perspective has informed my work with clients around this topic as well. In this sense, I have learned a great deal about, as a result of participating in webinars that were offered by the Association of International Education Administrators, AIEA, about how universities in places as different as Bogota, Colombia, Osaka, Japan, and West Bengal, India, have approached a myriad of COVID-related problems, such as moving instruction online, testing, continuing to serve international students who cannot go home, and cutting budgets as a result of a reduction in revenue. So, as you contemplate your work as deans in student success, faculty research support, fundraising, strategic planning, international student recruitment, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the pandemic, global perspectives will offer amazing opportunities for the leadership of your colleges. Becoming more globally engaged will also broaden your horizons about your own potential for advancement in higher education administration. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to be leading a session at 9 a.m. called "So You Want to Be a Provost or a President?" And I encourage you to think about these next possible steps in your career, because higher education really needs you. For now, though, I'm happy to open the floor, and I think maybe Amber's going to help me out and see if you have any questions that I can address, or if you have any thoughts to share about how you have been globally engaged. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. And we do have a couple of microphones in the room here, so I invite you, if you have questions or experiences to share, please join us at the microphone.
Now I can see you, Amber, which is fabulous. Anybody? You got your coffee? Have a question? Have a thought?
Great, thank you. And when you ask your question, please do introduce yourself.
My name is Lynn Maurer, and I'm Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at Lamar University in Texas. There you are, I keep looking at Amber. This new partnership is very exciting. I've done a lot of my own work in international politics and Spain and Western Europe, and so have some of the colleagues I'm sitting with. So this new partnership that we have, what specific opportunities are there for us to engage internationally?
Well, I think I'd like to first turn it over to Amber because she is your fearless leader, and I'd like to know, Amber, if you can comment on that. Yeah, Amber really gave me the honor of announcing the partnership, but it was as much her announcement as mine in representing Helm.
Sure. So we are just at the beginning of this partnership, and it fits nicely with the timing of our strategic plan, which we will begin in January and be sharing with you all this time next year in Washington, D.C. So we will really be looking for input on what that might look like and what the partnerships could include. Carolyn did allude to one of the activities we have all identified as an area where there's more opportunity, which is in data collection and understanding the demographics of our deans, the transition of deans coming into the role, how long do you stay in the role, where do you go from there? These are questions that are being asked elsewhere, and if we bring together our 500 universities as well as their 26 universities and perhaps colleagues elsewhere around the world, we really have a very interesting data set to examine together. So there would be opportunities to explore that data together, to help collect that data. And then Carolyn also talked about some interesting ideas around other types of exchange programs and visits, and we'd love to explore something like what that might look like. So we're very interested in your input in that over the next year.
Thank you, Amber. That's great. And I guess I want to also confess that as I was getting ready for my session tomorrow morning, I emailed Amber and I said, Amber, can you tell me what is the average length of tenure of a dean who's a member of CCAS? And we don't know the answer to that question. And Amber and I both tried to do research on our own. And ACE tends to study the presidency and the provost role, but not the dean's role. And so, I mean, it's the most basic question like that we need data to answer. I also think that while there are great opportunities since we've learned how to use technology in all kinds of different ways as a result of the pandemic, to bring deans together face to face in conversations and the professional development programs that Helm offers, and ones that CCAS offers as well. We hope to do some things jointly together. But of course, we all know that there's nothing like being face to face with people. So we would also like to create an opportunity, perhaps through some joint fundraising, to make it possible for groups from CCAS to travel to South Africa, and also to bring deans from South Africa to the US, perhaps to attend the CCAS annual meeting, but also maybe from more specific trainings or professional development. So we have lots of ideas, but when Amber says we're open, we really are. We're looking to all of you. I'm looking to all of you to share your thoughts as part of your strategic planning process. And hopefully the board can help us, your board, to come to some conclusions and to prioritize some of the many ideas that we have. So thanks for the question.
Yes, thank you. I see we have another question.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Roberts, Dean of the College of Sciences at San Diego State University. Thank you very much for the presentation, which I appreciated. My question has to do with your thoughts on developing the partnerships themselves, beginning with the university. So this is my third institution, the second as Dean. I've been involved in international activities at all of my institutions. I'd love to hear you reflect on, as we're building new partnerships, the tension between going very deep with a small number of countries and versus broad with a large number of countries. And faculty energy is usually all over the place, so there is some pull there. But my observation and my bias is that the longest standing and the best ones are narrow and deep. But I'd love to hear you reflect on that. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I agree with you. That's been my experience too. And so much of it, I think, is led by faculty who really have the interest, right? And this has been true, especially when I was vice president for academic affairs, and a little bit when I was a dean and trying to work with faculty on fundraising. We all know that there are, sadly, faculty who think that fundraising is unpleasant and untoward in different ways. But the good news is that we only have so much time, and we can only work with people who raise their hands. I think the same thing is true in international partnerships. And when I was dean, one of the strongest international partnerships we created was with the faculty that I actually wasn't a part of when I was at the University of Zagreb, but I happened to get to know someone in that faculty. I can't remember exactly what it was called in Croatian right now, but it was the strongest connection to the criminal justice department, which was a very strong department at CSU Stanislaus, which is where I was dean. And all kinds of connections were made. People went on Fulbrights, student engagement and research. It was really wonderful. So overall, I would say, yes, focused partnerships are often the best. But before I leave your question, I also want to say that what really matters the most is partnerships that have meaning. Because as I traveled to try to create partnerships in all of my different roles, and many of you have had this experience as well, lots of people come calling with boilerplate MOUs to try to get other people to sign. And they sign them. And then, we each go to our respective campuses and we issue press releases, or we put it in our newsletters, or, what have you, and it's all very exciting. But the truth is that the overwhelming majority of partnerships do absolutely nothing. So you really got to, I think, find people and institutions who really want to work with you and who really want to implement something. And I agree with you. Start small, But if you start small and it appears to others that there are good things that are happening as a result of the partnership, there's lots of other kinds of opportunities that can follow. So thanks for the question.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have one more question.
Yeah, this is a really exciting opportunity for CCAS, and really great that you're putting this together. My name is Tom Horvath. I'm the Associate Dean at the College of Science at Cal State Monterey Bay. Prior to this position, I served for 5 years as an Associate Dean, if you want to call it that, at a university in Germany, the University of Koblenz-Landau. And just wanted to note that in some of these cases, the deans are not professional deans at universities. They just come in and out of the faculty, similar to what we do with department chairs. But the associate deans, I was a lifelonger in that position, so we're more the professional side of it. So it would be nice to include some of these other types of positions that aren't necessarily called deans, that have those types of long-term leadership positions at those universities.
Yeah, that is a great point, and thank you so much for making it. So there are many universities, and when I was at the University of Zagreb, it was exactly the way you described it. It was sort of a rotating deanship, and most people didn't even want to do it, and they did it for their 5 years, and then they were out. So you'll find a lot of different traditions across the globe. Some of them are changing to become more professional, or in South Africa, they use the term executive deans, who are seen as managers. But I should have begun my remarks by saying that when I say deans, I mean all deans. I mean assistant deans, associate deans, and deans. And in the programs that Helm offers, all who have that type of title or who are middle-level managers, more broadly speaking, are included in the opportunities to participate. So anyway, thank you for that clarification, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to make clearer that I want to be inclusive when I talk about deans.
Great. Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you for the presentation today and also for the enthusiasm for this partnership that we share. I want to give you a moment to think about what's next on the program before we adjourn here. We have at 1:45 a very familiar session of CCS, something that we've been doing for decades. So I want to explain to you how that works. This is known as case studies, and you have a time slot at 1:45 where you can choose to attend the case studies or to attend what we're calling the current issues discussion. And you'll be asked to make the same choice tomorrow between the same topic and the same scenarios that you would discuss in the case studies. Here is how it works. In the case studies, you will go to the 3rd floor, and when you get off the elevator, you will be invited to join one of the first rooms where there are small tables of 10 to 12 people and a volunteer facilitator from among you. These are the case studies that are listed in the logistics in your app and that were also promoted via the email the last few weeks. So these are 4 brief scenarios, real stories, real things that happened among this membership and were submitted earlier this year. So in your small group, you'll have a chance to unpack those and talk through how you might solve those problems and challenges, with the added benefit of at the end of the time together, your facilitator will actually be able to share with you the answers or what actually happened in that particular situation. This is a session that a lot of people look forward to and very much enjoy, so I hope you find that to be your experience. You do not have to register for it. You just show up on the 3rd floor and will be directed into the next available room. And again, you will have that same opportunity tomorrow, the same 4 case studies, but we have found in past years that some people do enjoy attending that twice because you hear different perspectives at the different tables. During that same time slot, if you choose not to go into the case studies discussion, then you would join us on the plaza level in the room where we had speed dating last night in the atrium ballroom. And what you will be doing there is we will be joined by our colleagues locally from Portland, talking with us about their experience managing during the pandemic and the civil unrest and all of the challenges that they have faced in the last year at campuses locally. And then that will lead to a broader discussion about those current issues affecting all of us. So I hope you'll give some thought to which sessions you'd like to attend today and tomorrow. We have a short break now before we move on to that. So once again, thanks so much to Carolyn. We're excited about the partnership, as you can see, and look forward to talking with you more this afternoon. Thank you.